house went viral on Twitter because it was originally bought for $8,000 back in 1950, and now it's for sale for $1.1 million. Now at the surface, that looks insane. 137 times their money, but it's been 75 years. So your grandparents could have bought this house for $8,000 on their salary. How much would have that been in today's dollars? Well, since 1950, the dollar's inflated by 3.5% every year. So 8K back then would be the same purchasing power as $106,000 today. That is still nowhere close to 1.1 million. Now, finance bros love to do this. Let's check out what 8,000 back in the S&P 500 75 years ago would be today. Caveat, the S&P 500 didn't exist in 1950. It started 7 years later. But if you put 8K back in, you'd have $16.4 million today.
A Valley home inspector known for his videos exposing problems that he finds during inspections will not face discipline.
You see that leaning block wall?
He specializes in new construction homes in Arizona, and his videos oftentimes expose flaws he finds, informing homeowners of their rights under Arizona law. But his inspection videos showing Taylor Morrison homes prompted the company to file a complaint against him with the Arizona State Board of Technical Registration, which regulates Porter's industry and his license. In the complaint, Taylor Morrison described Porter's posts as harassing, falsified, and bullying. This week, the board holding a hearing to discuss the complaint. The investigator assigned to the case saying there was no evidence to show Porter lied in any of his videos. A Taylor Morrison representative calling for Porter's license to be suspended. Board members had differing opinions. One called for discipline. Another said there was no violation and Porter's videos are protected. Ultimately, the board did not discipline Porter.
If anybody wants to know what the New Jersey real estate market is like, this fucking house is 856 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. This house, and it's listed for $850,000 in Princeton, New Jersey. That is fucking insane.
Everyone's looking for something under $500,000 in New Jersey, right? 399 Belleville, New Jersey, 25 by 175, 1 bed, 1 bath, people. 399. The average home in New Jersey is around 550 grand right now, people. I don't even know what this is. Cape, bungalow, ranch, but 399 gets you this. So if you're looking for affordability in New Jersey, people, the land alone in most of these towns is going for about $1,000 a foot. So Newark, 25 by 100s, 200, 250 grand. Belleville, 25 by 100s are going for around 350 to 400 grand, people.
People who bought their house in 2022, now 3 years or 2 years ago, they want to sell their house and they're trying to sell it for 50 grand more than what they bought it for. But really, their sale price is their purchase price. And again, if they used a VA or if they did some sort of refinance and rolled their closing costs into it, like, they can't. And so I'm meeting with these folks and trying to have these conversations with them, and it's a really hard pill to swallow.
So my fiance and I have been looking to buy a home since March of 2024 and haven't found anything just because there's nothing on the market. And the stuff that is so crazy overpriced for shitholes. So I'm going to show you what $429,000 gets you in New Jersey. So this is a beautiful property, 2.5 acres of land in the town that I grew up in. And I'm like, okay, the house, it clearly needs some work on the outside, but that's manageable. The property is beautiful. Let me show you what the inside looks like. Mold all over. Top to bottom, just disgusting. The spores are so foul, it makes my skin crawl, and it just keeps getting worse. This place is sold as is, so all of this shit in here, it's our responsibility to toss it. And you can clearly see, obviously with the mold, you know there's a leak in there, but the ceiling, you see that there's clearly more leaking happening. But this was the room that skeeved me out the absolute most. It is so vile. But this is what the most troubling thing is what the listing says. So as I said, it's a as-is sale, but they also say it's a possible teardown. And you can't go inside due to the mold. So you can't renovate the property. Like, it's not a possible teardown. You need to demolish this place. It is a complete health hazard. And I would want to buy this place even if I had $5 million to make this property beautiful, because that much mold is frightening. And I don't know if it's something in that area that caused it, but I'm out regardless. But if I were to buy the property, that's $429,000. Then the cost to demolish it, then the cost to rebuild it, which would cost you well over $1 million and probably 2 years to rebuild when it comes to permits and all of that shit. So this is what you get for $429 in New Jersey. It is absolutely ridiculous. I love my state. I never plan on leaving, but it comes to a point, and I'm frustrated.
Is the housing market going to crash? I don't think it's going to crash, but I do think we're stuck. Because if you bought a house between 2010 and 2020, let's say your loan amount is $200,000, you refinanced during the pandemic for 3%, that 3% on $200K over 30 years is only going to cost you a little over $100,000 in interest, which is a steal. And if that person, even in the past 5 years, if they gained $150,000 to $200,000 of equity and they upgrade to a new house and they get out a $400,000 loan today at 7%, it's going to be over $550,000 of interest. So who's going to trade $100K interest for $550,000 of interest? That is a huge L. Then you have people like me and my wife who bought in 2022. So anyone who bought from 2022 to 2025, we're also stuck because our housing prices didn't go up. So if we sell, we would actually break even or maybe even lose money. So we would take an L and we can't move. Then we thought, well, why don't we rent our house out and then we can go buy another house? But our mortgage is $2,900 and we can only rent our house for $2,200, $2,300. So we would lose there. So we're stuck. We literally can't move unless we want to take a $50K punch in the face. And then you have the sellers who have to move for work or whatever else is going on in life. They can't find a buyer because houses are $400,000 or $500,000 and you need $150,000 to $200,000 to comfortably afford a house in today's market. So everyone is stuck. The only people who might actually win right now is if you're someone who's making a really high salary, you have a good savings, very low debt, and you can buy a house right now, because you might actually be able to get a good price and you might even get some of your closing costs covered. So if you're in that situation, I would take a look at what's going on in the market. I would talk to an agent in your area, talk to a lender, go to your local bank, or you can go over to my profile, talk to my preferred lender. They work in 49 states. I've been working with them for nearly 2 years. They're awesome. Try to figure out if this is a good time for you. But for every other category, even the people whose houses are paid off, everyone's just stuck.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I'm about to go tell a seller that their $900,000 house is actually worth $550,000. Well, please asked it.
If you're hoping to buy a home in 2026, you need to understand what's going on with the real estate market right now and how it impacts your wallet as a home buyer. Let's break this down. So right now in the U.S. housing market, sellers outnumber buyers by the biggest margin we have seen in decades, roughly 47% more sellers than home buyers. Like I said, this is the biggest imbalance we've seen in over 10 years. Now, what this means for you as a home buyer is that competition is down across the United States. It gives you leverage to negotiate with that seller to get a lower price on the house or to get them to cover your closing costs, which we are seeing consistently right now. In real terms, millions of homes are sitting on the market, and in certain cities like Austin and Miami, they have over 100% more sellers than home buyers. Now, the number one thing that's fueling the buyer's market that we're in right now is the affordability crisis. Home prices and interest rates have still remained elevated, which unfortunately has priced out the average consumer from being able to afford a home purchase, which is part of the reason why the average first-time homebuyer age is now over the age of 40. And meanwhile, you have Trump and his entire administration pressuring the Fed and pushing as hard as they possibly can to get interest rates down. And he has said several times over the last year that his goal is to get them back down to 3%. So I think your window of opportunity is here. And as these rates continue to come down and affordability increases and everyone and their brother jumps back into the market, this window will close quickly. What are your thoughts? Drop a comment. You guys hear about this? The National Association of Realtors just dropped the numbers for 2025. Roughly 71% of realtors across the United States did not sell a single home last year. And it's literally almost 950,000 realtors out of the 1.3 million that are licensed across the U.S. did not do a single deal. If you're a homebuyer or a renter on the sideline, you need to do your due diligence when you're looking at purchasing a home and vetting your realtor and the lender that you're speaking with. The reality here is the barrier of entry for realtors and for loan officers is extremely low. It's a simple DLLR licensing test and 20 hours of education. And the problem here is you as the consumer, this is one of the largest financial investments that you're going to make over the course of your life. You need somebody reputable in your corner that's going to fight for you at every turn. If you're in the market or you're thinking about buying a home, take this as your warning. You need to vet the people that you're using. The more you know.
We have a new most expensive zip code in the entire country, and it's located in California. I'm of course talking about Newport Coast, which has a median home value of $12.5 million, and it's technically part of the city Newport Beach, but it kind of has its own little community. If you're not familiar with Newport Coast, 99% of the communities are gated. Some are even guard gated, like this $40 million, 11,200 square foot mansion. While you do have some of the most beautiful homes and some of the most expensive real estate in the country, like this $62 million, 20,000 square foot mansion, what you also have is neighborhoods with some of the most incredible ocean views. Now, for some people, that's not important, but for others, it's one of the reasons why they're willing to pay such a high premium to live in these neighborhoods. I mean, this is like a 180-degree ocean view with Catalina Island in the background. So as someone who lives in Orange County, it's not really a surprise to me why this zip code is now the most expensive. But I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comments. If you're familiar with this area, do you think it deserves the #1 spot?
They lost almost $1 million on this house in less than 2 years. This Palm Spring house sold for $1.4 million in 2023, and I have no clue why they paid that much for it. The sellers before bought the house for only $750K in 2022, and they tried to sell it for $1.15 million just 7 months later. They couldn't, so they cut the price down to $1.1, and now these current owners came in with a $1.4 million offer. How does that make any sense? Well, anyways, it's 2 years later, and now these current owners are trying to sell the property, but it went under foreclosure. It listed for sale at $685,000, which is over $700,000 down from what they paid on it. I have no idea what they were thinking. There are so many question marks on this one. Now, some people are just really, really bad at real estate, and I love crushing those types of people on this app. This app lets me sell, buy, renovate real houses in a simulation to build up my net worth and be at the top of the leaderboards on the real estate global ladder. If these owners were in this game, they would be dead last.
So I'm on Zillow, right, looking for apartments in San Diego. This is how criminal the San Diego rental market is, right? $2,300 a month for 550 square feet. What is that shower? Am I the flatfish from SpongeBob? How am I supposed to take a shower in that?
Okay, we're at a showing. This is the most crazy work I've ever seen with them trying to make it look like something. You can see the drips everywhere. Look at this. They even hit this. They hit the outlets with it.
I'm 25 going on 26. I probably could afford a house, but I'm just gonna keep renting, bro. Like, of course, at some point, I would like to have my own house, but I'm in my mid-20s, and right now, I just don't see it as a practical thing. Again, would love for someone to prove me wrong, but buying a primary home that you are going to live in full-time, that's a lifestyle. That's not an investment. Like, buying a single-family home and living in it full-time, that's not gonna build me a bunch of wealth. I've seen 20-something homeowners and they're fucking miserable. It's a lot of upkeep. It is a lot of upkeep. And then and the people that I know, they're house poor. I truly view buying a house as like a luxury lifestyle, not really an investment. Unless you are just mega rich and you're turning and burning and you just have a bunch of rental properties. But for the average person, it's that saying, rent is the most you'll pay every month, but a mortgage is the least you're gonna pay every month. Houses have so many issues, bro. AC unit goes out, 15 grand. You know what I can do as a renter? Invest 15 grand and not have to spend it on an AC unit. Before 2020, if I had the money, I probably would have bought a house. But as of right now, with the market, and I live in California, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until I have millions of dollars in the bank. And I'm like, you know what? This is a luxury I can have now. It's a luxury. I will keep renting and I will keep investing. Thank you very much.
Folks, for sale signs are stacking up everywhere in the U.S. housing market. Some of these sellers are even taking losses. On this house behind me, they bought it for $267,000 in 2024, and now it's listed for $230,000. I'm seeing like houses for sale literally right next to each other. The prices are dropping and dropping hard in many cities and states across America, especially in the South. This is where data from Reventure is showing the biggest inventory surge and where price declines are happening first. Over here, this is an open door house. They're America's biggest home flipper. You can see See the blue sign right here? They're trying to sell a 3-bed, 1-bath house, 900 square feet south of Atlanta for $216,000. Do you think they're gonna be able to sell it for $216,000? Make sure to check out the data at www.reventure.app, particularly our home price forecast.
Miriam Musavi admits she's been struggling financially as a full-time real estate agent in the greater Toronto area. A single mother, she was forced to list her own home in April. 7 months later, it hasn't sold.
I have to basically beg people to come and just even look at the house.
The national average sale price of a home sold in October was just over $690,000, down 1.1% from a year ago, according to the Canadian Real Estate Association. This home east of Toronto was purchased in September 2024 for $2.3 million. Last month, it sold for $1.2 million. The seven-figure loss is the result of a power of sale.
Power of sales are way up in the GTA. They're up 90% compared with what they were just a few months ago.
Losing the homes to the banks is a real possibility that has led to sleepless nights for Musavi.
I've never seen anything like this before. With no income, I couldn't even pay my mortgage, and I have to sell the house.
The Canadian Real Estate Association expects the housing market to become more active in 2026, though some experts we spoke with say the economic uncertainty could prolong the pain for many.
I saw this condo in Manhattan for $215,000. I love New York. I'm like, I'd like to own a condo in New York, and it would go up in value. I'm like, how bad is New York condo? I'm like, $215,000 for Midtown Manhattan. What the fuck's going on over there? I knew there was an exodus, but Christ, right? How bad could it be? What are you, just getting stabbed on the way into the building? $215,000? Benjamin, explain to them, I almost got taken. And by the way, if you look at me, I am the guy they hope buys this. Because when I walk into an office, this is the pitch that they make to me. Right. This land lease scam that Ben understands even a little better than I do.
So it was first of all, very important. It has to be cash only, all up front.
Cash only, because banks, and this is a red flag, will not finance this type of transaction. Now me, I'm an idiot. So I see that and I go, cash only. They want the big rollers. I'm in. Like, they're like, they want a certain type of people. I think I even said to him, I'm like, I think they want a certain type of people. I'm already putting my foot in the door to get robbed. Do you see what an idiot I am? Do you see what an idiot I am? Yeah. Because I'm a salesman, and salesmen are easily sold. If you were a salesman out there, you're easily sold.
Yeah.
It's true.
So the land lease is essentially, the building does not own the land that it sits on. So you can never technically own the apartment. It can go up in price at any point.
The homeowner's dues, which are monthly, can double, triple,
quadruple.
Doesn't matter. And it gets reassessed every 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, in the 60s and 70s, Trump Plaza made a deal with the land that the building was on to only pay $1.9 million for the land for over the course of 40 years.
And in the 70s?
Yeah, in the 70s.
Wow.
When that expired, they owed $190 million to own the land.
Because land costs in Manhattan always go up. New York land costs go up.
So they raised the money. Everyone in the building raised the money.
So everyone in the building, all the criminals living in Trump Plaza, raised the money.
Because otherwise you could lose the unit completely and lose
completely,
all the money.
Because all the land gets forfeited back to whoever owns it, and you're fucked. But the people in Trump Plaza were able to raise $190 million so that they were square.
Correct.
Well, we're not going to be doing that over at the fucking... What was this place called again?
Carnegie.
Carnegie House.
Yeah.
And they have all these, and it's on Billionaires Row. It's on 57th Street, Billionaires Row. And I'm an idiot because I'm telling Ben, I'm like, you see, I said a lot of people are just not on Zillow trying to get these deals, but I'm on it because I'm smart. That's the great article right there.
Which one is it?
Right there. The $99,000 one bedrooms on Billionaires Row.
Yeah, this was it.
This is it. $100,000 studios on Billionaires Row, highly desirable apartments that people are racing to unload. Why? And then they explain to you.
Yeah.
In the case of Carnegie House, it turns out it's straightforward. It's a land lease building, meaning the building doesn't own the ground beneath its foundation. The arrangement is fairly rare. There are only 100 land lease buildings in the city, and means that the building's owners have to pay rent to the developers, which in a co-op building, of course, means that the shareholding residents who pay ground rent, in addition to their typical monthly maintenance fees, real estate tax, and any operational costs. So if the ground lease expires and is renewed at a much higher rate, the monthlies can double or triple. Land leases can reset as often as every 5, 10, 15 years as the building and the property underneath is reappraised when they do. So this is what is, I almost got robbed because I'm an idiot. Now, they would have explained this to me, but I'm such a moron that I was actually looking at this as like a good investment. Yeah. And I'm the type of guy that they dream of, because when I walk in to the real estate thing and I go, listen, I found a good deal. I know how this works. I pay attention. I get my ear to the ground. 215, I'll go in there. Maybe we do cash deal, who knows? Like, they look at me and they go, right. They go, okay, so it's, it's a land lease, and that means that, whatever. In a couple of years, they reset the monthlies. It can go up, and anything can go up, right? They go, hey, 15 years, 20 years, who cares?
Right.
They go, this guy, get him another steak. Get him another steak. You want a light? Light up a cigarette. Get him a steak. He doesn't care about what happens in 20 years. You don't care what happens in 5 years. It doesn't matter. You're happy in the moment. Buy it. You're a big dog. You're living on Billionaires Row. Lie about how much it costs. I mean, there's so many ways to try to sucker me into that deal. Thank God Ben was here and smart and able to see. I just said white power. I didn't even mean to. I just went like this. I was trying to make a point. But this is white power now. This is
screenshot that. Yeah,
they will screenshot that and they'll say I was trying to do white power.
An apartment locating company just posted a video of this unit right next to me. And I want to know if what they posted was a lie. In their video, they claimed that if you have a $1,300 budget and want to live in a high-rise, you can have a view like this too. This is the exact unit they posted, and at the end I'll show you a video of the $1,300 apartment. This is apartment 909 at the Case Building in Deep Ellum. It is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath corner unit that is 1,344 square feet, and it is currently renting for $2,841 per month. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this apartment. The windows are incredible, it gets great lighting, it blends some modern and industrial finishes together, and it's right next to Terry Black's, which is dangerous for a big boy like myself. But why in the world are we putting a $1,300 price tag over a $2,800 unit that looks like this? And in the caption, there's no mention of what the price for this floor plan is. This is the moment you've been waiting for. This is the 506 square foot, $1,300 apartment at the Case Building. This is a very cute studio, but I don't think this is what anyone had in mind after seeing their video. If you're moving soon and want real prices on real apartments, you know where to find me.
I don't think the housing market's going to crash in 2026 for these 4 reasons. Number one, 40% of people who own their home do not have a mortgage. They have property taxes and homeowner insurance and a little bit of maintenance. So if you think about that on a $400,000 home, their monthly payment is sitting around $800 to $1,000 a month, which is way less than the average apartment in this country. So they're sitting pretty. Group number two, 52% of Americans have a 4% interest rate or lower, meaning they probably bought their house before 2020. So they could have bought it in 2005, 2010, 2015. Houses back then were $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. They have a 3%, 4% interest rate. Their payment out the door is probably $1,200 to $1,500. Again, that is cheaper than most apartments in this country. They are sitting pretty. Group number three, these are the folks who bought between 2022 and 2026. Now, some of them do have elevated interest rates, and they might have a $2,500 to $3,500 monthly payment. Let's just hope these folks didn't over leverage themselves and that they're not sitting and being house poor because everything's become more expensive. But at the same time, you had to have money these past 4 years to qualify. They're not handing out loans like they were in 2005, 6, 7, and 8 like candy. You have to prove your income, your credit, your debt to income. So I think this group is going to be just fine. They're just a little more stuck right now. Now, number four, people are going to say, yeah, but there's a whole generation who's struggling to buy a home right now. So isn't that going to bring houses down because people can't really buy? Sure, but the top three groups aren't selling. They're kind of stuck because who would want to get rid of their paid off house to go get a 6% interest rate? Who would want to get rid of their 3 or 4% interest rate for a 6% interest rate? And the people in group three who just bought didn't really have enough time for their house to appreciate in a meaningful way. So if they sold after just 2 or 3 years, they're probably going to break even or lose money. So they're not selling. So I think the market's just stale. It's just stuck. If rates go back up to 6.5% or 7%, I think it's going to be a little bit of the same. If they drop to 5%, will it move the market a little bit? And if it does move the market, will the 5% interest rate encourage more buyers, which will then encourage prices to go up a little bit? We kind of have to see what happens in the next 3 to 6 months. But I personally just don't think the market's going to crash by 30 or 40%. I do think there's going to be localized markets that are going to see potentially a 3% dip or something like that. But 20, 30, 40% crash, my personal opinion, do your research. I do not think so.
Well, hello. It's Vegas Paulie C, and I am at the edge of Las Vegas, 15 miles north of the Strip, and this is where construction pretty much ends. The Las Vegas Valley is now firmly a buyer's market for residential real estate, according to a new study. This is from Patrick Blennerhassett and the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Redfin estimates that the Valley has shifted towards a buyer's market almost more than any other major metro in the country, as the number of sellers now outpaces the number of buyers by 96.7%, which is up from 47.9% year over year, ending August. The only other metro area that has seen a bigger shift from sellers to buyers this year is Denver. And in terms of it being a seller's market, the only place worse is Newark, New Jersey. They lead the category. Redfin says that there are 13,575 sellers of residential real estate currently in the Valley. There were only 6,903 in August of last year. The median home price sits at $443,770. This is still a 1.3% increase from August of last year. The Valley finds itself in the middle of a housing crisis as a number of factors have weighed heavily on residential real estate lately. The biggest contributing factor appears to be a lack of land to develop. I don't really believe that. There seems to be a lot of land to develop. There may be other things at play. You can comment here on the Vegas Paulie C Show. Look at that pretty mountain. Vegas, Paulie C.
According to Redfin, nearly 45,000 sellers who threw in the towel and delisted their homes last year came crawling back to the market in January, the highest number of relistings for a January in over a decade. This is the seller delusion narrative in full effect. It's a phenomenon prevalent in hybrid markets where the power hasn't yet fully shifted from seller to buyer. These are sellers who would rather pull a home off the MLS for a few months, hoping against hope that conditions will improve before relisting the same exact house with the same exact problems. In San Jose, California, 257 homes that were delisted last year hit the market again in January. That represents 12.5% of the total inventory for that month, the highest share of any major US metro. This waiting game is the hallmark of the in-between states, places where the floor hasn't dropped out yet, but the foundation is cracking. But history shows that once conditions begin to degrade, first with surging inventory, then with stagnant prices, it becomes nearly impossible to reverse the momentum. Real estate moves with a nothing then all at once mentality. Price drops don't just happen in a vacuum, they breed more price drops as sellers panic to catch the falling knife. And this is what we're seeing throughout the South and West. All of those states fall either into that hybrid category where we're seeing inventory rise and price cuts begin to happen, or in the flat out crash markets like Florida and Texas. While a lot of these markets are localized, it's apparent that these price cuts are spreading. Now is just a question of how far north this will go and whether this massive inventory imbalance will flatten, bringing the north in balance with the south.
Let's talk about the number one factor in selling a house, okay? Do you know what that is? It's pricing. It's always been pricing. I don't care how good of a house you think you have, what great condition it is in, all the modification that you've done, the location, the school district. While those are all factors and a reason why someone is attracted to your house, at the end of the day, they're going to buy your house on the most important factor, and that is how much is it going to cost them, okay? Case in point, I listed a house on March the 5th of this month. I'd met with the sellers about a week and a half prior to that. We talked about pricing, and I asked them, I said, hey, look, what are you wanting to do? Do you need to sell this house, or do you want to try and sell this house? And I said, we have to sell this house. We got to be out of it in the next month and a half. So I gave them a pricing strategy. They didn't like it at first, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, they thought we might be coming in a little lower than they would have liked. And they thought that they had to price high to come down lower later, price to negotiate. And I told them that's a terrible strategy. I showed them my histories of days on market, and they went with it. They trusted me. And so we listed it on March the 5th. We had an open house about 9 days later. Had a couple showings on that open house, and then the next day, on the 10th day, I got a phone call from an agent where their client walked through the open house, and we got a full price offer, close in 30 days. Pre-qualified, everything's tight, good. We get the inspection done tomorrow. I anticipate nothing to come from that, and we're going to sell this house in about probably 35, 40 days on market. So you need to be very cognitive, and you need to interview your agents and ask them what their pricing strategy is. Don't ask them about their marketing strategy, because that's bullshit, okay? At the end of the day, buyers are going out on their own, looking at Zillow, Realtor.com, looking at whatever the MLS is putting up there, and they're looking at price. That's what they're looking at. It is a buyer's market, and they have options, and they can go with 4 to 5 homes that they can hone in on that they're going to be happy with. At the end of the day, it's all about how much it's going to cost them.
Looks like we're about to have a housing crash. Google searches for can't sell house just hit an all-time high, higher than 2008, higher than COVID, higher than anything we've ever seen, and we all know what that means. But there's a problem with the chart. This only goes back to 2016, so I went back and I checked every single year of Google Trend data. And when you go all the way back to 2004, it was basically a non-existent search term, and then this has just been taken off like a rocket lately. So unless interest rates fall dramatically, you're about to see home prices fall across the board.
Folks, the builder built these attached townhomes in 2022, and guess how much they're selling for? $800,000. The one on the left sold for $900,000 in 2023. That's a $100,000 drop in value in 3 years, but that's still crazy expensive. To be attached to your neighbor, your mortgage is gonna be something like $4,500 a month. And interestingly, the only segment of the housing market right now that's growing sales is the luxury segment. Over $750,000, over $1 million, sales are going up. Every other segment, sales are going down. And in fact, buyer demand in the housing market today is at its lowest level on record, according to the ReVenture Home Buyer Demand Index. And so very much this housing market is becoming a situation where wealthy people are just selling to wealthy people, and everyone else is kind of caught in between. You could see here looking.
This is where you move when good enough just won't do. Every home feels intentional, hand-built by the area's finest custom builders. Some of these homes even offer multi-generational living. Close to the beating heart of Wake Forest, but far from the noise.
It's the perfect time for you to
80 days on the market. Our buyer makes an offer at 90% of the list price. What happens, Jenny?
Well, the listing agent told me that the seller wants their list price. I said, well, what's her plan if she doesn't get it? She said, to keep the house. And I said, good, that's a good plan, because that's what's going to happen.
Highest bidder keeps the home.